you mind telling me you lost through suicide?
My brother, my eldest brother, my oldest brother, my only brother.
And what's his name, sir?
Mark.
Mark. And how old was Mark?
Mark was 29 at the time. Just gone 29.
Yeah. And when was this?
16 years ago, last March.
16 years back. Do you remember where you were?
Yeah.
When it happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went missing. He was gone missing for 2 days, and we were out looking for him for 2 days. We hadn't slept for 2 days. We were out, you name it, the rivers, fields, mountains, anywhere that we knew that was familiar to him or that he may go, and we couldn't find him. And my father called me then and said that the guards were at the house. So I knew that, you know. There were signs, we knew.
And was that the first thing? When you got that phone call, what was the first thing you thought of?
What did I think? You don't want to believe it. You know that you hadn't been told the news, you know. But that call to say that the detectives were at the house said it to me, and I knew. But what did I think? I didn't want to think. You know, I wanted to. You make up stuff in your mind. You want to hear that. In your mind, you say, but all the if, ands, and buts. Maybe this, maybe that. But, you know.
And mind telling me what kind of person Mark was?
Yeah, he was very quiet at times, shy until you got to know him. Once you got to know him, he was a great friend, very strong, very powerful, very loyal, sporty, and loved laughing. Yeah. You know, loved his friends, loved family.
And would there have been any sign of him showing that he wasn't happy in any way, or?
When I look at it now, when you have time to look back on it, I don't think he was ever really happy. You know, I think he always had his demons, but the signs were there probably in the last year or two, where we seen that, you know, his words were he didn't want to be here. You know, but we didn't understand that, and as siblings, you tend to say, look, just get on with it. Come on, pick yourself up, like you do, like your father says to you when you're a child. If you fall, get up, you're okay. Yeah. You know, and that was sort of inbred in us. You know, come on, we'll be okay, we'll get over it. We didn't know the seriousness of suicide. We didn't believe in suicide. Really, because we didn't know anyone. We hadn't come in contact with anybody who had committed suicide, ever, you know. And
so even if it was him trying to reach out, no one really knew that.
Yeah.
At that time, knew like this is a serious issue.
It was extremely serious, and he had booked himself into Canis's in Kilkenny to look for help. But there wasn't really help there. They, you know, in those days they just drugged them up. You know, if there were a problem, and a ward full of drugged up people doesn't make sense. You know, they're all socialising, talking about the same thing, and you know, that's all I ever seen when I went in there was, you know, and he didn't need that, like. He needed help, but we didn't know how to give that, like.
Yeah. And would you remember the last conversation you had with Mark?
Yeah. I had a transport company at the time, and I had planned on. I had told him, you know, you look for every avenue, and I said to him, I'll get you a van, and you know, we'll go into business together. And I gave him a drive in my van one day, and he nearly crashed it. And I knew then that I couldn't allow him drive himself. So I went out and bought a truck. And so I bought more space instead of another vehicle. And I was going to give him a job as a helper with me. And we were out one day, I had picked up the truck, and we were out one day laughing our hearts out. It's not often I laugh with cramps, you know, but with him, when we brought up all of our childhood, all of our adventures, or you know, even the bad stuff, you know, we just couldn't stop laughing, you know, and I would be in knots laughing. And he said to me, as I dropped him home, he said, "Do you see how we laughed today? Do you see how we laughed?" And we're in knots laughing. And it's not often you'd be in cramps laughing. I said, "Yeah." He said, "I still don't want to be here."
And do you think losing him, like, how do you think that affected the family?
Yeah. Well, it never stops affecting the family. Never. You know. I mean, I have sons now, and I look for signs. And I'm nervous about those things. You know, I'm always wondering, are they okay? Even I know they're happy. Everybody has their moody side, but are they happy? You know. So you're always nervous about it. It tore the family apart. I mean, I don't mean that literally, but you know, it was like as if we were going around like zombies. We were just caught in the headlights. We didn't know what to do, not to say. We couldn't speak to each other. You know, we couldn't communicate about it. It was just, when we seen each other, even our souls fell to the floor. Like, you know, it was that big. It was that epic of a thing. Like, but we, you know, I suppose back then, this was like 2000. People didn't. We were so fast. We were so busy living. You know, we were at an age where we were all trying to build our relationships, trying to buy a home. We were having children. We weren't ready for anything like that. You're living your life in a very positive light, trying to push forward at your life as a young person, trying to make it, trying to be like your parents or the people you look up to in your life. You know, you pick those people in your life that you want to replicate. And all those values you want in your life, you want to bring into your life, you know, through a young family. And that's where I was at the time. So I was distracted, you know, by all of that, if that's the right way of explaining it, you know.
And do you think, maybe you remember, did Mark ever try and look for help, or was it a case that there was nowhere to get help at the time?
Mark had problems with alcohol. He had problems with cannabis. I think that abuse affected his life in lots of ways where he didn't really suppose he needed help in those areas. And then he did seek help. He went for help in both, and he couldn't speak to people. He couldn't. I don't think he couldn't speak to strangers. There was a nervousness there. Why would I speak to them? You know, why would I tell them my life? Or why, you know, it was very closed. You know, he would only ever speak to friends, but he would never heart to heart. It was really just me. You know.
And if you should speak to him now, like, what would you say?
I do. You know, what would I say? Wow. That's a hard question. What would I say? You know, everything's okay now. You know, if you had have only just held on in there a little while. Maturity is a, you know, it takes time.
Probably would have matured out of the state he was in.
Yeah. I think though, as young as he was, even though he was 29, there was still that reckless side of youth still in him that hadn't matured, hadn't come through. And it was only reckless to him. He didn't want to hurt anybody else, like, you know. So I think time would have for sure. Yeah. If only he had held on, maybe that's what I would say to him.
Just one or two more questions. Just when this happened with Mark, did you feel anger towards him, being your bigger brother?
No, I never felt anger. I went through a lot of emotions, but I never went through anger. I maybe went through anger when other people mentioned that they were angry to me about it, or how selfish he was. I was never angry with him. I was too distraught to be angry. You know, I was lost. That grief is it's a hell. You know, it's not a place that I could have ever envisioned being in. So no, anger. There were so many other feelings there of the loss, not anger. Pity, my grief, the huge loss, the love, because there was a huge love there. But yeah, a loss of love, really, not anger.
Yeah. Two more questions. What advice would you give anyone that's maybe lost someone through suicide, going through?
Yeah, you know, there's so many people, good people you can speak to now. You know, there's so many people that are reaching out, just like you are now with this. You know, and people really care, and it's a big problem. But there's more help there now, and it's okay. You know, it's okay to speak, not to be okay. Yeah, that's okay. Like, you're just finding yourself. You know, that takes time. You know, and there's lots of people you can speak to who can help, even if they're not close to you. You know, the closest to you have to obviously try and reach out to them first. Yeah, but there's so many people out there now that understand so much more. Where way back when, prescription drugs were the answer. It wasn't the answer. Like, you know,
back then when no one really understood
what
it was.
Yeah, care is different now, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Just the last question. And why are you talking about this now?
Why? Because it's important that the people who have been affected help the people who are being affected now. If that makes sense. The people who have gone through it can tell you that everything will be okay. It just takes time, and we're here. You know, there's a listening ear here, and that's it, really. You know, there's great care within our community for sure. You know, to deal with suicide, or just not feeling good. You know, and that's not the answer. You know, this is a better place to be. To live your life, you know, and your full life, to mature with your own children, or your nieces and nephews, or your grandparents, your in-laws. You know, it's a great adventure. Just hang on in, be you know, love yourself more, and be careful with yourself. You know, be careful with yourself, probably. You know, more. Love yourself a little bit more, and be tender. Don't give yourself such a hard time, you know. And that can be hard to get through, especially when people go through what they're going through. They feel alone, you know, and that can be hard to see through, you know. But it's not. There's always light, you know.